everyone, and welcome back to the Princess Phenomenon. So, we had our dramatic love confession with Rumple, and now they are totes together, and they spent the night talking together and each other and kissing and doing things couple things do. He's 24 and she's 17. Let's not forget this. Anyways. Next day. Princess, are you okay? Oh, if it isn't the princess. Are those dark circles under your eyes from a romantic night out, You were out with someone last night? No, they are from being woken up early by Delora to do chores. Delora grins at me from the other side of the bar, but says nothing as she goes back to a conversation with another boarder. Darling, you are no fun at all. You must tell me what happened last night. Last night? Did you like the bouquet? How do you know about the bouquet? Why, because it was my suggestion. When Chevalier was asking Karma for advice, it was about me. Look at the way she smiled. A niece last night must have gone well. I'm confused. What happened last night? I'm going to get Rumple to give me all the juicy details when he comes downstairs. Oh, I love a good romance. That is Chevalier to you. Chevalier appears behind Karma, smiling. He seems a lot calmer today than usual. He glances over Karma at me, and we catch each other in a silent gaze. Seeing his eyes reminds me of last night, which makes me inadvertently flush. Chevalier just winks at me. Chevalier, what is that? Something you say when a person sneezes. It's French! No, that's his name. Rumple, that is. Chevalier broke his curse yesterday. There is stunned silence from everyone in the immediate area. Even Delora walks over to us. What's this about a broken curse? Was it you, Rumple? He's going by something that sounds like a fancy cake. Parfait seems to be bursting with excitement. Though she is her usual calm self on the outside, I can tell by the bounce in her step that the way she raises her voice to make an announcement, that she is proud. Yeah, words. When everyone has learned that Chevalier has broken his curse, people come to the table offering drinks and congratulations. Chevalier gets lost in a crowd, mostly of women, but much to my surprise, Chevalier does not flirt back with any of them. And then, in between our celebrations for Chevalier, the front door to the margin opens and Waltz rushes inside. Where are Delora and Lady Parfait? I need to speak to them immediately. Waltz, you're just in time. We're all... Something has happened at the palace. Ta-da! The room goes quiet at Waltz's proclamation. A few people shift uneasily in their chairs. Some try to go back to conversation. Most people do not care what happens in the palace, but they can tell by the tone of Waltz's voice that it is bad. What's happened at the palace? An uprising. What? What? A coup, staged by witches. Witches have taken over the palace. Ah, that guy. The Snake Eyes dude, the one I don't like. The information is so sudden it makes me dizzy. I reach out to grab the table and my hand lands on the wood before I can slip. Witches have taken over the palace? An army of them? No, only a few. Jurian strides across the room, followed quickly by Garland. What's this about witches taking over? We have some of the best knights at the palace. There's no way witches could break in under the palace's guard. Unless they had someone inside helping them. Alcester? No. Myth. Who are we talking about? You know him as Mithros. He uses a different name now. Sir Mithros, the king's advisor? You couldn't have gotten that from Myth? It's short. He's a witch? There's no way Mithros is a witch. We would have known. Glamour. He used a glamour. Everything Waltz says suddenly gets swallowed up in questions. Jurian and Garland ask question after question while others start surrounding Waltz to ask him what has happened to the king and his children. I try to step closer to listen, but I cannot hear over the frantic voices in the room. Sir Mithros. I never trusted him, but I never thought he would be a witch. The room only quiets down when Delora and Parfait come to punctuate the conversation with their own demands for everyone to give Waltz some space. The Martian boarders are all taken into the reception room, where Waltz stands at attention, waiting to answer questions. He explains that he was looking into a rumor about Sir Mithros from a few days ago, when he found out about the witches' uprising. It was a surprise attack orchestrated by Mithros, who let the witches in through a secret entrance to the palace. Alcaster was killed during the uprising. Many knights were injured, and are currently being tended to in clinics and hospitals around the town. After his explanation, I feel even worse than I did in the main room. I stare at Waltz, at a loss. What of Fritz? Fritz? Sir Alcaster's son, my husband! Fitzgerald! He was my personal knight. If Sir Alcaster was killed during the uprising, where did that put Fritz? He was working with Sir Alcaster. Was he working with Sir Alcaster? Or with Sir Mithros? Did he escape? I'm sorry, Princess. I haven't heard anything about a knight named Fitzgerald. Was he killed? Or cursed? The thought makes my heart plummet. No, Fritz could not possibly be dead. I have to believe that he is still alive. I feel Chevalier's hand on my shoulder, briefly before it slides off. Are any of the king's knights remaining in the palace? If they are, then they've either been forced to turn against the king, or they've been killed. Is Mithros sitting on the throne? No. He usurped the king, but he hasn't taken his throne. Waltz turns to me and his expression softens. Princess, feel free to ask me whatever you want. I'm sorry I didn't answer all your questions earlier. I have so many questions, but I suppose I will ask them one at a time. What has happened to the king and the others? I'm not sure. From what I've heard, the king and his family, your family, are still alive. I never cared for any of my step-family, but hearing that they are okay is still a relief. Mithros may be keeping them prisoner for now. What is this glamour? Delora steps in to answer the question. A glamour is a high-level magic used to conceal one's identity. It keeps even other witches from sensing you. Parfait cast the same magic on you shortly after we came to the tavern. It was to protect you from the evil witches. What? A glamour can be conjured by the powerful witches. It sounds as if this witch has been using glamour to hide himself from others. Do you know Mithros? It was a long time ago. We both shared the same teacher. Teacher? Wait, Waltz, are you a witch? Yeah. He smiles at me, but it is weak and does not reach his eyes. Myth was always very competitive. I thought he had died at the end of the Great War, but he's been in the palace this whole time. His disguise is so simple. I should have realized his name was so similar, but... You couldn't have helped it. That's what the glamour does to you. Maybe if I wasn't cursed, if I had more of my magic, I would have been able to sense him. Who has claimed the crown? As of right now, no one. That's because Myth is holding it for me. The king's been kicked off the throne, and Mithros has made a public announcement about usurping the throne, but he does not call himself king. Is he trying to win the throne over for someone? Myth has no one left. He was obsessed with our teacher, but she is gone. Their teacher was your mother! Maybe he has a different alliances now? Parfait's eyes look distant as she stares dismally at the ground. If my curse were broken, I would charge in right now and destroy him. Waltz's expression becomes so dark it sends a shiver through me. It isn't like Waltz to look so angry. We need to come up with a plan. Even if you weren't cursed, you would still not be able to defeat Mithros when he has other witches with him. Witches are trickier to handle. Can't just be plunged through with a sword, eh? I agree with Karma. If all of us go in with swords and shields, we should be able to take the palace back. This is what we've been practicing for. Practicing? Even witches will die if you stick a sword through their heart, won't they? But getting to a witch who knows you're there is difficult. I must do something. I want to help! Direct and to the point. Chevalier wraps his fingers around my wrist and frowns. Princess, this whole time I've been living at the Marchen, I was spared the fate of the royal family by sheer coincidence because I was cursed. I cannot just sit here and do nothing while the kingdom falls to a witch. It fell to witches before, and there were dire consequences. I cannot continue to be passive. I will not let myself be like Mother. Princess, I am Lucette Riella Breton. I am the Crown Princess of Angielle, and I will not stand by and watch while the kingdom is in turmoil. The room goes quiet at my statements. Chevalier's fingers loosen on my hand. I can see a ghost of a smile on his face, though it underlies his sorrow. Spoken like a true princess. Yay! It was good or bad somehow. Hard to tell with him. He's confusing. Whether or not you want my help, Princess, you really can't. You won't be able to use magic until your 18th birthday. Who said? It's stupid rule. That's when you become the bearer. I cannot let that stop me. I will find a way. The conversations in the room continue for a long while. At some point, it is said that volunteers are needed at the hospitals and clinics for the injured soldiers. Haha! Chevalier immediately volunteers. Only afterward does he look at me with regret. Princess, I'm sorry. For what? For putting my job before you. And after all I just said. He told me he was going to try his best to change. Bria called him selfless before putting his work before her, but you would be a fool not to. My life is not in any danger, and there are people who need you more than I do. Do what you do best, Chevalier. Princess Lucette. I promise you, I will do whatever I can to help you as well. As the meeting disbands, I am left standing there in quiet. The last to leave is Waltz, who promises me that he will make things right. I am going to trust everyone, but I'm also not going to stand idle. I will make things right somehow. As is my responsibility as Crown Princess. Do-do-do-do. The Witch Puppet. Interesting. That makes me wonder, was Fritz cursed by Mithros? Is that what happened? I want to know what happened to my boy! Another long night. The two of us are on our way back to the Marchen after visiting a clinic in town. We were there for hours, and it is a relief to be out in the open now, where I can feel the wind on my skin. Are you okay, Princess? I know that what you saw must have been difficult. I'm sorry I couldn't shield you from the majority of it. I volunteered to help Chevalier at the clinic part-time, but it is worse than I had expected. Many of the soldiers have severe wounds. I had thought that most of the injuries sustained by the knights during the upheaval were only minor. Why would you think that? People died. But I was wrong. Their injuries are much worse. Princess? He reaches out and laces his fingers through mine, then gives me a soft smile as he squeezes my hand. Are you okay? I am fine. It has only been 1 day since the uprising at the palace. I had thought there would be less blood. I was wrong. Is this what things were like after the Great War? I wasn't a fully certified doctor after the Great War, but I was an assistant. It was far worse than this, Princess. We cannot have we cannot have a repeat of the Great War. I do not know why Mithros would kill Sir Alcaster and take the throne without claiming the crown, but the witches already have a bad name, and he is making it worse. I cannot help but remember the wide smiles Mithros gave me when I was still living in the palace. Every time I felt his eyes on me, I felt there was something strange about him. There was always a cloudiness to his eyes, something unreadable. He was excellent at his job, but always had an enigma outside of it. A sudden breeze chills my skin. Let's go back before you freeze out here. The two of us begin our walk back to the Marchen. Thoughts of the palace, the king, and my step-family cloud my mind. Since I have been staying at the Marchen, I have not seen Rod once. I was never sure if it was because he was ignoring me or if it was because he only wanted to speak to Parfait. Regardless, I hope Rod and his family are okay. I would never wish this treatment upon anyone, not even to the ones I hated. As we walk, I glance up at Chevalier, whose head is tilted skyward. I catch the glimmer of lights in his eyes and smile. Even for just a moment, I can forget about everything when I am beside him. He has a way of taking the weight off my shoulders. But as the crown princess, I cannot let others carry my burden for me. I must find ways to protect the others. Even if it means putting myself in danger or harming someone in order to protect someone else. What do you think is the easiest and fastest way to kill someone? What? Chevalier's body goes rigid beside me. He stops to stare at me, wide-eyed. I'm just asking in case I am ever in danger. I have never fought anyone before. I can retaliate, but I do not know how to actually harm anyone. To kill someone is to end a life. It is stealing away a life that others might love. You bear the burden of that death for the rest of your life. I pull myself away from him. But Mithros is not an innocent man. Would you rather he kill the royal family instead? No, it is not that, princess. I know he must be stopped at any cost. It's just, I would never want you to have to kill someone. How would you know what it is like to kill someone? You have only ever helped people, not hurt them. You saw the soldiers in the clinic today. You saw how close some of them were to death. Do you see the hollow look in their eyes? I have seen that look many times. It is the look of a man who clings desperately to life. Every life is precious. And a life is still a life, whether it is vile or not. It is still a responsibility you have to bear. I know how valuable and fragile lives are, because I have helped so many people. We stand quiet for a few moments, facing each other. I know I am at an odds with Chevalier. He speaks the truth, but I also know that I speak my own version of the truth too. The world is a place where only the strong survive. People are kind, but they will take advantage of those who are too caring. Bria told me that Chevalier was so selfless, he became selfish. She told me that he never had anything because he gave everything to others. His kindness has hurt others, and I fear that it has a likely chance to hurt him as well. What if his reluctance to hurt anyone causes him to be the one that is injured? Chevalier suddenly breaks the silence. Most people think that the easiest way to kill a person is to stab them through the heart. Those people would be wrong. He puts his hand over his heart and stares dismally down at the ground. He removes his hand briefly, but only to reach for mine. He takes my hand and settles it on his chest, slightly to the left. I can hear the beating of his heart beneath my palm. It is soft and gentle. What can you feel, besides the beating of my heart? The ribs? Yes. In order to stab the heart, you'd have to go through the ribs. That's why most of the soldiers in there who got stabbed in the chest are still alive. If you want to quickly kill someone, you have to stab somewhere where it would be difficult to stem the blood from a wound. Do you have any idea where that might be? The neck! The skin on the neck is thinner, and you have lots of blood flow underneath the skin, going right to your head. It would most likely be easier to slice or pierce something more vulnerable in the neck without running into as much resistance. Chevalier raises an eyebrow. Did you happen to pick that up around the clinic? No, I simply guessed. Then you have a bright mind, Princess. Chevalier moves my hand to the side of his neck. My fingers curl slightly when I find his heartbeat reverberating beneath my fingers. This part is where you can find the jugular vein and the carotid artery. He runs my fingers down the length of it and I shudder. A mischievous smile brightens his face. Not only does cutting at the neck stop blood from going to the head, but it also makes it spurt. If both the vein and the artery are cut, it only takes a minute to bleed to death. Thus, one of the best ways to kill a person would be through the neck. Why are you telling me all this now? I was just enlightening a new pupil with an anatomy lesson. You asked me a question and I responded as a teacher. Chevalier's fingers loosen on my hand and I grasp his hand tighter in response. Princess, I don't want you to have to bear the burden of a murder. I promise that I'll protect you, so you don't have to defend yourself with violence. I can't use a sword or magic, and I don't know how to fight, but I will always be there to protect you. I may not have an abundance of muscles beneath these sleeves, but I am a doctor, not a mason. I know no one knows the body better than I, so though it may not be heroic, I know how to hurt a person. His sincere expression, though pained, tells me that he is telling the truth. I do not want Chevalier to hurt a person either. It would destroy everything that he has worked toward as a doctor. He has seen so much suffering, and yet always seems untouched by it. I will do anything I can to protect his positivity. And we will return to the Marchen in the next episode. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye!